This episode of Fall Obsession Podcast is brought to you guys in partnership with our friends over at Hoot Camo. And don't fast forward just yet because Hoot has a discount code for our Fall Obsession Podcast listeners. It is Fall Obsession 15. If you want to shop with Hoot, go to hootcamo.com and check out some of the best gear in the hunting and outdoor industry. It keeps us going from season to season, from year to year. Can't say enough good things about Hoot Camo. Bear River Archery is the official archery pro shop and archery range of the Fall Obsession team here in North Texas. Justin does an incredible job keeping us in the latest and greatest gear and everything squared away and ready to rock and roll for any hunt, any trip, any adventure that we're going on. Even if you are not local to North Texas, you can still shop with Bear River. They have a discount code for you guys to use online, and that is just simply Fall Obsession, all one word, lowercase. That will save you guys some money with Bear River. And if you are local to North Texas, then you need to make the trip to Van Alstyne. Check out the shop, check out what Justin's got going on, and let them know that Fall Obsession sent you. Tacticam Reveal is the official cell cam and trail camera of the Fall Obsession team. We have used so many different products, so many different brands over the years, and nothing, in our opinion, compares to what the Reveal cell cam can do, the data you can compile, the features of the app, all of the different things that you can integrate into an already outstanding and high quality product and picture. It is second to none, guys. You've got to go check it out. Reveal cell cam, you're missing out if you do not have one. The Outdoor Call radio app is a partner of the podcast. Outdoors Dan, he created an app that you can download on any device and stream tons of different hunting shows and podcasts on a loop every single day. You will catch Fall Obsession podcast playing on that loop on Mondays. That's the same day as our new publications, as well as tons of other hunting shows and podcasts that we all know and love. Go download the app today. It's free. You can start streaming immediately, and make sure you follow their Facebook page and Outdoors Dan on social media. That way you can also catch his live radio shows that he does every week. It's the Outdoor Call radio app. Go check it out. Wherever you are listening to Fall Obsession Podcast today, again, thank you, and make sure you hit that follow or subscribe button, whatever they have up there for you guys. Turn your notifications on if that is even an option. That way you know every time we drop a new podcast. We try to put out a new episode for you guys every single week, and we don't want you guys to miss out on one. You can make sure that you are subscribed over at the YouTube channel as well. If you like watching the podcast videos, they're on our YouTube, as well as our other hunting shows, films, educational videos, all sorts of other stuff that we put out. Follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. We post daily updates from our team and their adventures and everything they got going on in the field across the entire country. And then fallobsession.com, that's the website. That's where you guys can go to see everything that we're doing and everything that we're working on and producing. You can pick you up a hat or a shirt or a hoodie if you're so inclined. We always appreciate the support. And finally, if you guys have never heard of Carbon TV, you need to go check it out. It is a free hunting and outdoor streaming platform where you can stream hundreds of different hunting shows, films, live feeds, podcasts, all sorts of different stuff from creators in the industry. You will find 4 different Fall Obsession produced shows on that platform. This podcast, our staff-inspired video podcast series called Couch Chats, is on Carbon TV, as well as our 2 different hunting shows called Texas Dirt and Midwest Mindset. Guys, go check out Carbon TV, download the app, and start streaming today. That's all I got for the intro. We got a lot of stuff to talk about here today. Thanks for joining me. You guys are listening to another Fall Obsession podcast.
The power lies within that middle ground.
Hunting transformed my life.
I think you have to be built somewhat different.
That Dale Brisby's a super puncher.
It's when you get Pop-Tarts on the next Walmart order. I'm serious.
Because to come into this country and stay dedicated to that, it was pretty awesome.
If it's only for one, then you've done your job.
We have to do what's right for the wildlife, and that's our responsibility as hunters.
Fall Obsession Podcast.
What is happening, everybody? Welcome back to another Fall Obsession Podcast. My name is Sam Thrash. I'm your show host over here, and I appreciate you guys pressing play. Seriously, I do. I am flying solo this week, and for our returning listeners, you guys probably know what that means. And it has been a while since I talked about it. I will say that I've let off. Conservation. We got some stuff that we need to dive into. We're going to talk about some things happening in Colorado, in Oregon, in Idaho, a couple other miscellaneous topics That's not even scratching the surface of everything going on right now, but there are some important things that we need to dive into because the battle never stops. It's not going to. It hasn't, even after wins, even after, Proposition 127, even after the whole public land sale debacle and Mike Lee getting his greedy hands or trying to get his greedy hands on stuff. There's been occurrences where the hunting community and conservation organizations have stepped up and they've made a difference. They've had a notable impact. And we would consider those wins, and we can celebrate those wins. We have proven that we can meet anti and extremist organizations at the mat. We can meet them at their level, whether that be a legislative level, a ballot box level, whatever it looks like. We can meet them there and we can win. And I'm getting fired up just as I'm kicking off this podcast, but just because we win these battles doesn't mean that this war is ever going to be over, because it's not. This battle, this war on conservation, it is a staple at this point in the hunting and outdoor community. And I've said it before, and this is not meant to hurt any feelings, but I hope that it does wake some people up. If you are not involved in this fight, even you as an individual, you don't have to be tied to a company. You don't have to be tied to an organization or a brand like Fall Obsession or anything. If you are a hunter and you are not in this fight, you are not paying attention, then you have no leg to stand on when there is something that is going to impact you. Because every bit and piece of this, even though none of these things I talk about today, none of them might be happening in your state. They're not happening in my state. I'm from Texas. But they impact the greater hunting community, and they are going to have a trickle-down effect to every state, every hunter, every outdoorsman out there in the world, which is why it's important for us to pay attention. So to start things off, we're going to talk about the most time-sensitive matter that I have on the agenda today, and that is what is happening in Colorado with the proposed commercial fur ban. This has been all over social media. It's been all over the place. It's been a thing for a while. They actually tried to do this, to have a fur ban a couple years ago, back in 2024, but almost 60% of voters voted no. So it didn't pass. So the voters have already, in Colorado, have already spoken. They have already weighed in on this issue very recently, but that is not preventing other activists and extremists from trying to find a different way to weasel this in just to get their way. So that's what has led to now what Colorado is facing is a citizen petition that is now pressuring CPW, the Colorado Parks and Wildlife, to ignore voters, to ignore what people have already said. And that's not how science-based, statistical, true, authentic wildlife and resource management works. Activists do not just get to say, well, that didn't work, let's find another way. You guys have to listen to us. That is not how this is supposed to work. But here we are in a very left-leaning state, as we all know. We all understand that there's a greater issue with perhaps a political climate that impacts these decisions, and why Colorado always seems to be in the news in the hunting and conservation world, that is, because we have people in the government and people in various positions that are not stewarding their roles and responsibilities very well, and they're not stewarding the resources and everything that they've been entrusted with in a beautiful state to the fullest or ethically and morally. So this commercial fur ban, it would essentially just make it so that legally harvested animals, like the products off of those animals other than the meat, essentially, it can no longer be sold. So if you guys think about, your felt cowboy hats, you think about other fur coats, fur hats, props and stuff that, Native Americans or some of these wartime reenactments and that kind of stuff happen. These are products that, as you get to thinking about it, They're integrated in everybody's everyday life in some way or another. And now all of a sudden in the state of Colorado, they don't want them to be sold. This has nothing to do with the fact that people are wearing animal products. This has to do with an attack on hunting, an attack on science-based wildlife and resource management. Because at the end of the day, they don't care if Miss Susie is walking down the street with a fur coat and a fur hat on. They don't care about that. They are trying to chip away at the thing that they all hate, and that is hunting and the outdoors. So this would undermine the CPW's current practices and policies. It's going to bypass, essentially, if it gains any traction, it's going to bypass science-based wildlife management. And no part of it is grounded in science. On the contrary, if you look at the CPW reports, fur bearer populations are strong and stable. Like, there is no reason to have a fur ban and to have any sort of negative impact on the take or the use of fur bearer products. There's no reason whatsoever. This is coming out of left field. This is coming from anti-hunting activists and extremists who just want to see the world burn. So like we've done before, we, as in hunters and outdoorsmen, we have to meet them at the mat. And the mat is coming, and I will, let me back up. I will say I am later than I would have liked putting out this podcast episode. The mat is coming tomorrow. I'm putting out this episode on March 3rd, and March 4th and 5th is when the CPW is having the commission meeting, during which they are going to hear this citizen petition, and they need to reject it at this meeting. It is at the Doubletree Hotel in Westminster, Colorado, March 4th. If you are a Colorado resident, if you are a hunter and outdoorsman who cares, if you can swing it to be there, be there. Show up. Science-based wildlife management needs to have a strong showing at this meeting. It cannot be a one-sided occurrence, and I don't believe that it will be. Dan Gates, the CRWM, the Coloradans for Responsible Wildlife Management, they have been going above and beyond to get the word out about this. And Dan Gates and the CRWM, they were one of the organizations that were spearheading the whole movement and the fight against Proposition 127 a couple years ago. So they have a proven track record of being able to rally people and to get work done, and I commend them for it. And I know that that the work that they have done, the legwork that they have put out on this thing, is going to be beneficial. It is going to have an impact. But again, the CPW, they need to reject this citizen petition. It can die, like my understanding is, it can die right here. It can be done. But these meetings it's going to shape what goes to the ballot, essentially. And there's no reason for this to go that far. This can die right here, and it should die right here. And it's up to hunters and outdoorsmen to engage and get involved to make that happen. So, another attack in Colorado, another crazy thing happening, and just something that has gone farther than it ever should have already. And it has the potential to go far, even more. But we have the chance to stop in its tracks. And I'm going to give a shameless plug for the CRWM and Dan Gates. Go to SaveTheHuntColorado.com if you want to learn more about that. They have a lot of great information on there for you guys that explains this in much more diplomatic terms than me just getting passionate and fired up here on a podcast. But this is important. This is another issue that we have to be paying attention to, and that we have to be ready to fight, because conservation is a constant fight. Oregon has some stuff going on, and I've brought this up and talked about this. I actually mentioned it very briefly a long time ago on the podcast. I'm kind of pulling this out of my rear end right now. I'm pretty sure it's episode 227. I want to say it is when I had on Cable Smith from Lone Star Outdoor Show was my guest on the show, and we talked some conservation, some hunting, some other stuff. And I brought this up in that conversation, kind of in passing, and that was Oregon IP 28. This it also comes with the nickname of the Oregon Peace Act, which is very deceiving because this is one of the most extreme anti-hunting ballots measures in America right now. This is crazy what IP 28 could do in the state of Oregon. And hunters need to be watching this. If you live in Oregon or you know somebody, have family, whatever, in Oregon, this needs to be talked about because this is huge. Again, another thing that is being pushed by anti-hunting activists and extremists. But what IP 28 would do is it would remove long-standing exemptions in animal cruelty laws in Oregon, the same animal cruelty laws that protect and have exemptions essentially for hunting, fishing, and farming. So by this measure removing these animal cruelty laws, it is essentially going to make hunting, fishing, farming, raising livestock, it's going to make it illegal to do that in the state of Oregon. And this thing is gaining traction. They have to have 117,000 signatures from supporters of this for it to make the November 2026 ballot. They already have over 100,000. And when I did that episode with Cable Smith, a while back, I want to say they had 20 or 30,000 signatures, and they're up to 100,000 now. They are going to get the 117. They are 100% going to get the 117. And aside from not being able to hunt, not being able to fish, not being able to raise livestock, cattle, chickens, pigs, anything like that for meat or human consumption purposes, we're going to see a whole system in that state collapse. Because what is supposed to happen with wild game then? What are ranchers and farmers supposed to do then? And from a wildlife management standpoint, from a resource management standpoint, from a public land management standpoint, you are now going to have fewer dollars going towards conservation and the ability to manage and maintain all of this stuff. Not to mention now, you are going to have more animals on the hillside and your populations are going to get out of control and it's going to be a big, ugly mess. The Oregon State Wildlife Agency, it's funded by hunting and fishing licenses. If there is no hunting and fishing, then nobody's buying licenses, and where's their funding going to come from? Just because they manage resources for hunting and fishing doesn't mean that the agency goes away when there's no more hunting and fishing. They still have to manage the wildlife. But now you are making it 10 times, 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times more difficult for them to do that. This is, the more I have looked into this, and the more I talk about it, the more I think about it, I am just dumbfounded by this one. This one gets me, guys. I do not understand how this is a thing right now. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy and insane. Another thing that we have to pay attention to, I don't know of a way or anything that is going to prevent this from being on the ballot in 2026. I don't. Again, people who are either living in Oregon or know people in Oregon, they need to be talking about this. They need to be paying attention to this, and this needs to be voted down when it undoubtedly, like it's going to, gets to the ballot in November. Because again, Surface level, just in the title of it, the Peace Act seems harmless. And it's coming from a standpoint, it has a cloak on it. The cloak of, and animal cruelty. But what we're redefining as animal cruelty is not acceptable. It is an ethical and moral means of take for hunting and fishing and farming. And now we're just relabeling it illegal because it is a loophole. Again, it is a disguise that the antis and the extremists have put on this thing to try and get it to try and slide it in there. That's what they're trying to do. And it's not okay. And we cannot let that happen. We as hunters and conservationists and those who believe in science-based wildlife management, those who believe that hunting is conservation because it is, there has to be a voice at this table. There has to be a loud and proud voice that comes from the greater hunting community with this, and especially as we start getting to November, closer to that, you got to be very vocal. People have to be very vocal. And I don't doubt that there will be other organizations that have more pull than me that are stepping in and everything, but I don't want to leave it up to them. I'm going to use every little bit of influence that I have, that we as Fall Obsession have through this show, to try and draw attention to these issues. Because I don't know that Oregon has a CRWM and a Dan Gates like Colorado does. And again, that's not to say that there aren't other people or other organizations that aren't going to step up and step in, but golly, this could be very bad. This could be very bad, and it could happen so quick. Like, I don't think people truly realize how fast this could happen. We're talking about before the end of 2026. If this goes according to their plan, there could be no more hunting in the state of Oregon. And that's huge. That is absolutely huge. We have to pay attention. This is the kind of stuff that they try to slide in there, and we can't let them. We cannot let them. I'm going kind of fast and mowing through this stuff, and this will probably be a shorter episode. I say that every time, though, and it seems to go close to normal time, but maybe I'll actually pull it off this time. We'll see. But next, Idaho. And some people might be scratching their heads like, Idaho? What's happening in Idaho right now? And it's nothing as big and glaring as Colorado or Oregon or some of these other like federal and national things that are going right now, which I'll talk about that very shortly. But there is a bill in Idaho right now, SB 1300, that Idaho folks, hunters and conservationists, should be paying attention to and keeping their eye on, because it could turn Idaho down a poor road, and a road that is going to lead to issues in the future. Because Idaho, I consider to be one of the strongest hunting states in the country. And when I say that, I don't just mean like the hunting that they have to offer. The hunting they have to offer is very good, but this is also a state that seems to be currently doing a lot of the right things from a science-based wildlife management standpoint. They've made mistakes in the past, don't get me wrong. But compared to a lot of these other ones, they seem to be in a decent place. And this bill, this could start them down a path to where there's an opportunity to lose some control. Look at where Colorado is right now, but that's neither here nor there. So SB 1300, this bill would shift the control of the Fish and Game Director away from the current Citizen Commission that they have, and it would turn it to the governor. So basically right now, the way I understand it, the Citizen Commission, they are responsible for the Fish and Game Director, and now you're going to change that to it being the governor. So depending on who your governor is, look at Colorado, depending on who your governor is, that could influence who your Fish and Game Director is, and that could have an impact on what your priorities are as a state and what your Fish and Game Director is doing in that state. This right now, SB 1300, it's heading to a Senate vote in Idaho. So this is something that, again, Idaho residents need to be paying attention to because it very well could put them heading down a poor road. Who do you want managing your wildlife, or who do you want, I should say, in charge of determining who is sitting in the seat that makes the ultimate decisions? Do you want it to be a citizen commission? A commission that is undoubtedly made up of people, or more likely to be made up of people who are hunters and outdoorsmen and women like you and me? Or do you want it to be in the hands of a politician? I'll leave it at that. That right there, that brief and blunt comparison should be all you need to recognize that this is poor, and this would not be a good move for Idaho. If they did this initially, for all I know, it could be harmless. It could be no issue. But what's to happen 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the line if this is still the way that it's operating? Again, look at Colorado and where they're at right now. So I bring it up because it came across my feed as I was preparing for this podcast, and I thought, man, that is something that is relevant. That is something that should be brought up. It should be mentioned at this scale and to this extent. So I'm bringing it up. If you are from Idaho, if you know somebody in Idaho, again, reach out, talk to them, help them understand exactly what this could mean. Another one of the conservation organizations that I follow, that I get a lot of my personal updates from, they have features that allow me to actually, quote unquote, take action, right? To actually send emails and know where I need to make phone calls and stuff on various issues to, the president, to my senator, U.S. senators, representatives, etc. Backcountry hunters and anglers. So if you guys follow them, you have probably seen some stuff more on a federal scale that they have been following, monitoring, been engaging and involved in. One of them being the Boundary Waters ordeal right now. And basically an effort is underway right now in Congress to reverse the 20-year mining ban in Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness, I believe is how it's described. And if you guys see me kind of looking over here off to the side, it's because I put together notes in kind of an order to help keep me on track for this podcast with you guys. So, but anyway, HJ Resolution 140, Congress is once again using the Congressional Review Act. And if you guys are not familiar or don't remember the CRA, we saw this a little bit earlier last year when they were trying to use it to overturn some of the BLM's resource management plans. The Congressional Review Act basically allows Congress to overrule and overturn rules for federal agencies. This is detrimental to the future of science-based wildlife management, dare I say, because it literally just allows Congress to do whatever they want. If a resource management plan, if a 20-year mining ban in boundary waters is inconvenient to a politician's agenda, the CRA just lets them overturn it. And some say the CRA is outdated, and maybe it is. I don't really know. I don't feel like I'm political enough or have a tight enough grasp on when it could be a good thing, I guess. I'm sure maybe somewhere there is, but to me, at least in the context that I'm familiar with the CRA, the Congressional Review Act, it's like I only see it being used for bad things. I only see it being used when something doesn't fit their agenda. And I find that to be a bad thing because it's too much power. It is politicians being able to overrule things, and in this sense, conservation decisions that have been made by educated people who have studied the science, who have learned exactly what it is that they are getting into, and they don't care. They have another agenda, and they just want to see that through. So, backcountry hunters and anglers, they do a great job of keeping people up to date on that sort of stuff. I definitely encourage you guys to follow them, to check out their website. Just because there's a lot of information on there, and they do a pretty good job of keeping you on top of the current issues that are happening across the country, not just specifically in certain states and regions and that kind of stuff, but national and federal issues that we're dealing with. So just another example. Again, this is not an issue that directly affects me down in Texas as far as a mining ban on boundary waters, but them going about it this way, it sends a statement. It sets the tone for what they are capable of doing or willing to do in other areas that are going to affect us down the road, that already have affected us previously, the BLM's resource management plans. So again, I bring this up to bring awareness to it. I'm not going to try to sit here and fumble my way through trying to figure out a solution, because I don't have one, and I'm not going to ramble on about it. But again, we have to pay attention, and we have to hold our politicians accountable. We have to hold them accountable, and making phone calls, sending emails, making your stance known is very important, and that's why I bring it up. That's why I bring up backcountry hunters and anglers, because you literally go to their website, you click on it, the Take Action tab, and you can send from their site all of the relevant senators and representatives an email clearly stating out your opinion. You can use the predisposed one that BHA has on there for you guys, or you can customize it yourself, whatever you want to do, but it makes it very easy to get involved. It could not be easier with today's day and age of technology to get involved. So get involved. Get involved and become a part of trying to preserve and save what's left for us in hunting and conservation, and what's left for future generations in hunting and conservation. Most of us assume that someone else is paying attention, and that someone else is going to show up to a commission meeting in Colorado, that somebody else is going to send an email about boundary waters, that somebody else is going to pick up on, maybe a bad move in Idaho, that somebody else is going to lead the charge for the fight in Oregon. But why not you? And why are you waiting for somebody else to do it if you already see and recognize the need for it to happen and for it to get done? And I'm not saying that every person listening to this podcast needs to become a Dan Gates and blaze the trail. And believe me, I have a whole lot of respect for Mr. Gates. He's been on the podcast before, and I think that they are doing an incredible thing over there and continuing to do it. They are diligent with staying on top of stuff. But why are you waiting? Why are you waiting for somebody else to get involved instead of you? Why can you not also get involved? It doesn't have to be a lot. It doesn't have to cost you any money. I know these conservation organizations, they have to be funded somehow. I know that what they are doing, the work that they are doing, costs money. And they certainly appreciate donations, contributions, those that subscribe to them, that kind of stuff. But you don't have to pay to use the action tab at BHA. You don't have to pay to use an action tab at Howl for Wildlife. They make it free to get involved. And I do encourage you, if you do have an extra few bucks every month that you can swing, to send them their way, because every little bit helps. But if money is the reason you're not getting involved, then forget about it. That is not an excuse, because it is free to get involved. All it takes is a few moments of your time, and those moments are even shorter and shorter because these companies and these conservation organizations are making it as more easy than it's ever been before for you to get involved. Get involved. We've seen the results already of people getting involved. We have seen the anti-hunting extremists, those that attack science-based resource and wildlife management, we've seen them get beat on their turf, at the ballot box, at legislative levels. And it's because hunters showed up, because we have the numbers, we have the people, we have the data, we have the facts. They do everything based off of emotions. Emotions and preying on the heartstrings of the ignorant, of the people who are on the fence, of the uneducated people, the people who don't care, the people in the big cities like Denver and Colorado Springs and Austin. Just throwing a few out there. But they prey on the people who don't understand. They put out propaganda that makes you want to love and cuddle animals, and they don't do anything to show or even to try and combat really the science-based stuff, because they can't. They cannot do that. When you start throwing out factual information to people, that's when their argument stops, because they can't beat it. And we've seen it work time and time again. We saw it work at the ballot box with Proposition 127, Mike Lee's whole public land sale deal. We saw people like the greater hunting and outdoor community step up and literally pick up the phones and call their representatives, leave messages, leave voicemails, send emails. And once that had been going on long enough, if y'all remember, you started seeing some other politicians, some other senators pulling their support from Mike Lee, because they were realizing that there's something bigger here. We are about to absolutely aggravate and tick off a very large portion of Americans. Because when the hunting community stands together, it's strong and it's a force that cannot be reckoned with. They don't realize what they're up against until they see us all unified. And these are issues that we have to be unified on. These are issues where it's important to show up and show out and be there, be present, be engaged, be vocal. We have to. We don't have a choice. If we want hunting to last for future generations, the fight's now. The fight is not our kids' fight. The fight is not our grandkids' fight. The fight is right now. Unfortunately, our kids and our grandkids are also going to have to continue the fight. I'm not saying they won't have to fight, but the fight's not waiting for the next generation. The fight's here. The fight's been here. It's staying here. It's not going away. And if you're not involved, if you're not engaging, I've said it before, and again, I'm not trying to upset anybody, but you're ignorant. You're not working to preserve the love and passion we all have for the outdoors for future generations. The antis, they are trying to disguise this every issue in so many ways, because they've seen what happens. We've shown them that we can beat them at all these different levels. So all of these restrictions, these bans, these law changes, all of these different things, they're now coming in the form of citizen petitions, ballot boxes, other legal proceedings, instead of where they should be coming from, change, that is, in the form of science-based wildlife management, when the science says, hey, this isn't working. That's when it's time to consider a change. Not when somebody has their feelings hurt and is just sitting over there emotionally unstable and ticked off. That's not a means for change. Change in conservation comes from factual data and known trends over a period of time, right? That is how we preserve wildlife. And unfortunately, there's a whole nother level to our fight now that is everything that we've just talked about. I'm the first one to say, politics should not be in hunting. I do believe that. I don't want politics in hunting. But they're here. The politicians, the antis, the extremists, they brought them here. So politics are in hunting now, whether we like it or not. I don't want them here. I would get rid of all of it tomorrow if I could, but I can't, and no one can. It is time to fight. The fight is here. They brought it to us, and sometimes you got to play their game to beat them at it, and that's what people are doing. They want to bring it to the ballot box, we'll meet them at the ballot box. They want to bring a citizen's petition to a commission meeting, we'll meet them at the commission meeting. Mike Lee wants to do whatever Mike Lee is going to do next. Guess what? We'll meet him there. We'll call people. We'll let our state representatives know exactly what we think about it. Don't sit by and watch it all go by. Don't be the guy that is sitting there thinking that's somebody else's problem. I don't hunt in Colorado. I'm not going to Idaho. Oregon, why would I go there? Don't be the guy that's thinking that. Because if you don't want to be involved for those, then don't expect anybody to come to your aid when it's coming to Texas or when it's coming to your state. Because nobody's going to be there waiting on you. Because they are already gone. Because their hunting has already left. And they're not going to come fight for you. We are one. We are unified. This is everyone's battle, everyone's fight. The battlefield for conservation does not stop. We are all in it, whether we like it or not. And we have to take it seriously. I have hit all of the points that I had hoped to hit on. I have accomplished my objectives, if you will, and looks like I'm still wrapping up and getting you guys done with me before my normal time for a Fall Obsession podcast. So lucky y'all. But I appreciate y'all listening. I hope you find value in this. I try to, like I've mentioned before, I try to be intentional whenever I do a solo podcast, and it seemingly has turned into solo podcasts or normally conservation podcasts, because this is where I just try to dive deep and get into some stuff and just to, again, raise awareness over some stuff that's happening right now. Fall Obsession tries to post relevant information on our socials whenever we see it, whenever we find it. So follow us. And then there's plenty of organizations that dive even deeper than us. I encourage you guys to follow the BHA guys, the Backcountry Hunters and Anglers. Howl for Wildlife is a good one. John Stallone and the guys over there do great work. Follow them. If you're looking for Colorado-specific stuff, CRWM, Dan Gates, Save the Hunt. Those are vital ones. I know Blood Origins posts some pretty good stuff, updating folks on conservation. And then Eddie Boyer. I had him on the show recently. His tag or his handle on Instagram is Rags to Ridges. He's pretty on top of it as far as updating folks on current conservation things happening, not just in the Pacific Northwest, but also in the entire country. So I'll give him a shout out, and you guys make sure you go follow him. But thank you guys for listening to another podcast, and until the next time that we have a new conservation topic to talk